Welcome back to Tropicana Field, and we are pleased and honored to have in the booth with us the commissioner of baseball, Mr. Rob Manfred. And Rob, it's great to have you here.
Pleasure to be here. Really a pleasure.
Why Tampa Bay today? You had Kansas City and the Mets, and that was a repeat of the World Series.
Well, believe it or not, I actually keep track of where I've been. I was in Toronto a couple times last year. I didn't make it here to Tampa Bay. I talked to their club on the road, and I thought it was important to get here early in the season, and here I am.
You must be pleased with your first season under your belt as a commissioner, and things are really on the upswing here in season 2.
Well, we feel very optimistic about the 2016 season. We had a really competitive year last year. You think about the World Series last year, couldn't have been a greater end to our season, and we're just anxious to get going here in 16.
Can you talk a little bit about labor? I believe we're in the last year of the basic agreement, and where do you see baseball 3-4 years down the road?
Well, labor, I'm optimistic about. We've already had formal openings, one in Florida, one in Arizona. A lot of player participation, which I see as a positive. Players turn out in number. They're interested in the topics. And we got a really aggressive schedule of meetings early in the season. So I'm optimistic that we can be on that same sort of program we've been on the last 3 times around. Work on it during the season when they're playing games and everybody's got something to focus on, and see if you can get it done before the year's out.
Baseball has really grown in the last few years. Can you keep it growing over the next couple of years?
Absolutely. I am convinced that baseball is a growth business. We've had tremendous revenue growth. I think we have a great technology company that gives us unique opportunities to move the game forward in a rapidly changing environment. I think there's opportunity for us internationally. I was a lot of fun places this spring, Cuba, Mexico City, and I think there are places that are dying to have Major League Baseball in their market.
Mr. Commissioner, and that's been a point of conversation around here. Jose Bautista mentioned that. You go to Mexico, you go to Cuba. How about the Dominican Republic? Because so many great players have come from there.
Well, Jose had a comment? I'm surprised, actually. How could that have happened? I'm just wondering. But look, the Dominican is someplace where we need to play. He's got I'm kidding when I say he had a comment. He makes a really good point. We have so many players from the Dominican Republic. Facilities are a bit of a challenge, but I know the Dominican government's focused on addressing that issue, and it's someplace where we certainly would like to play.
And I know we were in Montreal over the weekend, and again, for 2 games they can come out and support it. But what are your long-term prospects for the possibility of baseball returning to Montreal?
Look, I think Montreal was a great baseball town. It was an unfortunate confluence of events in terms of little ownership turmoil, the strike that resulted in things not working there. I think if Montreal can come up with a financing plan that convinces people that they will build a state-of-the-art facility if they get a team, that they can be a viable alternative for a relocation or expansion.
Toronto hosted the All-Star Game in 1991, and of course with the great popularity last year in the postseason, you see that Toronto might be a destination for another All-Star Game? I'd love to do an All-Star Game in Toronto. The interesting thing about All-Star Games is they have become a very hot commodity in our industry. It's become such a great event. Everybody wants one. The number of calls I get from clubs about it's really astounding.
It's not just one day anymore either. It's almost like the whole week.
We were just talking about that. We're going to be in San Diego this year. Great venue for us, and it does really provide us with an opportunity to expand the number of days in the event.
I was reading a story the other day about the guy starting for Tampa Bay today, Chris Archer, and he means a lot to you, and you guys keep in contact. Tell us that story about how he reached out to you.
Well, we've had a number of really fun. The story I like the best is he actually, because of somebody knowing someone, he found a picture from my law school yearbook and tweeted it, right? So
was it flattering?
Well, as I said, to the guys in the office, too much hair and too much glasses. That's all I want to say about this. He is a really engaging young man, articulate, inquisitive, community-minded. He is one of just a whole slew of major league players that are great ambassadors for our game. I think one of the assets we don't talk enough about is our players beyond the playing field. I mean, what they do for us in their communities and how they promote the game with the way that they live their lives, and he's a great example.
And his mound opponent tonight is another great example in Marcus Stroman, and they're past friends. And you know, this spring, of course, Bryce Harper brought up the point about we need to enhance our personalities with the young player, and baseball, in my mind, has never had more young stars than it has right now.
Look, I've been asked about Bryce's comments a lot. There was one word in those comments I probably cannot ascribe to, but the sentiment of what Bryce said, I agree with. We got a great generation of young players, and just like 30 years ago, the players decided what was acceptable on the field within the contours of the rules, obviously, but what was right, what was wrong, how the game was going to look to the fans, what was acceptable behavior. These guys are going to do the same thing, and you know what? I know they're going to do the right thing. So I all in on his comments.
You know what? It's a younger audience that we're trying to attract to the game, and they're all into the music and the hip hop and the fashions, and that's all Harper's trying to say.
That's exactly right. And the other one that I get asked about all the time was Jose's flip of the bat. Okay, so maybe 25 years ago that wasn't acceptable, but we didn't have cell phones 25 years ago. We didn't have big screen TVs, and there's a lot of
social
things that
media,
are right. There's a lot of things that are different today, and you know what? The fact of the matter is, in terms of people being focused on the game, got a lot of attention for the game at a point in time that something tremendously positive was going on in Toronto.
We are still talking about it, and it happened in October, but if you weren't in the ballpark, you don't understand what led to that bat flip.
Right. And it does need to be seen in context. And look, I don't think we're probably going to get to a situation where the bat flip is the standard behavior for Major League players. I do think that there are moments in the history of a franchise, and that's really what you were talking about there, where if a guy flips a bat, everybody can say, hey, I get that.
Yeah. That inning alone, that seventh inning was one of the greatest innings I've ever seen in baseball.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Mr. Commissioner, obviously there's a very serious topic that has been raised in its awareness, and that's domestic violence. And I have to applaud baseball for the way it's handled it. Of course, we have the Chapman suspension, and Cespedes has been ruled upon. Now Reyes' case has been dropped, but how is baseball going to handle the resolution of the Jose Reyes situation?
Just for clarity, it was Puig that was not Cespedes. Just to be fair to him.
Absolutely.
Look, what we're going to do with Reyes is what we try to do in all these cases. Once the criminal proceeding is resolved, usually there is more flexibility in terms of making information available to us. We're playing now. We need to get this done as quickly as we possibly can, but we want to know as much about the facts as possible, and then we will go ahead and rule in the Reyes case. I will go ahead and rule. It is an area that is of great concern to us. We have an asset. Joe Torre was an advocate on this issue years and years before he ever joined the commissioner's office, and we have benefited from his expertise in this area.
And Josh Donaldson, of course, has dealt with it himself. He grew up in an atmosphere of domestic violence. But we certainly want to thank you for your time, Mr. Commissioner. It's great of you to be here on opening day, a special time, and we wish you nothing but the best.
Well, it's great to see both of you, and thanks for having me on.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner.
All the best.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.